This episode is brought to you by Bright Cellars, a personalized monthly wine subscription. Start by taking a short, fun quiz, and the algorithm designed by 2 MIT grads will recommend the 4 best wines for your tastes based on science. You'll receive 4 bottles of wine per month, and you'll never receive the same bottle twice. Go to brightcellars.com/wine-to-5, and you'll get 50% off your first shipment.
It's not 5 o'clock, and they don't care. Welcome to Wine to 5. Entertainment, education, and everyday drinking for everyday people. Your hosts are Valerie Caruso and Stephanie Davis, 2 wine educators who don't need a clock to know when to pour that next glass.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Wine 25 episode 101. We're into the triple digits now.
Right, and welcome if this is your first time listening. Also, this week, Steph is out at Women of the Vine in Napa, California, at the Meritage Resort. So make sure if you're out there to say hi to her. Hey.
Hey.
So what we're going to do for you this week, we have a super fun interview with Amanda Doughty from the Great Beer Adventure podcast. Steph and I were lucky enough to meet up with her over some breakfast beer poolside down in Orlando, and that is what we're going to be talking about this week. Not wine, but breakfast beer. Enjoy. All right. Well, hey, everybody. We're having some breakfast beer here with Amanda from Great Beer Adventure podcast. And we're in sunny Orlando, Florida. I know you guys have been hearing a lot about Florida lately, but guess what? You know, we're making the most of our time here. We're at the Caribe Royale Resort Complex. We're enjoying some beer. First, ladies, we always like to chat a little bit about what's in our glasses. So I'm going to let Amanda tell us about this beer that we're drinking right now before we talk about this whole breakfast beer thing.
Okay, so what's in our glasses today is Free Dive. It's from a brewery right here in Florida. I don't know a lot about it, but the very first day that I got here to the Caribe, which seems like so long ago now,
right?
It's been a really long week. Amazing, but super long. Like, it feels like the days have been amazingly packed with stuff that just keeps you, like, going. And you're like, oh, my goodness, what day are we on right now? So I'm a beer drinker, so what I do whenever I get into a new place is, like, I go and I find out what beers are available in what places. So I can tell you.
Yeah.
Inside, there's a bar in the downstairs. They've got, you know, your typical macro brews, the bigger beers from like Bud and Miller. Also sometimes called the BMC, Bud Miller Coors.
Okay. I've never heard it referred to that way.
Yeah.
Me either.
BMC are actually my husband and my daughter's initials. Unfortunately, I was thinking of like maybe getting a little tiny tattoo on my wrist that was BMC, but now that I'm in the beer world, I can't do it.
That's hilarious.
Because, you know, it would be Bud Miller Coors, and everybody would be like, why are you supporting them? Well, no, it's Brian, Maddie, Charlie. Like,
Beer Mama Central.
yeah, there you go. Absolutely.
Right?
You just got to come up with a lot of different
Acronyms, yeah.
Yeah, acronyms. So inside they only have for decent beer is one by Sam Adams, and then they have a bar upstairs, and there is a sign somewhere in this hotel that said the Loft has craft beer.
Right, I saw that.
You saw that sign too?
I did.
Yeah, they lied.
No.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
This week they had craft beer because I literally brought a cooler every time I went to that bar. Yeah.
Good for you for getting away with that.
I also brought rum to 2 bars last night, but
Right.
you know. And then the best beers that I have found is this Free Dive that we can get out here by the pool. I asked the lady the first day, I was like, do you have anything local? I don't know where that Free Dive is from. And she's like, I don't know. I was like, okay, I'm going to Google that, and I'll get back to you on my beer choice. And then also the Market, which we went in earlier, they have one from Funky Buddha. Funky Buddha is here in Florida as well. And theirs is called the Floridian. It's a Hefeweizen, which is this delicious banana and cloves type of beer that is just very refreshing and perfect for Florida.
Breakfast.
And breakfast, yeah. And they actually, so the Floridian is the name of that beer, and their little tagline for that is a suntan for the soul, which is like exactly what you want, right?
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
but they wouldn't let us buy it till 11 o'clock. So
Right.
liquor laws.
Like, yeah, they are so crazy.
I think in that way, it's not 11 o'clock and we don't care.
Right.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty crazy, all these different laws that are out there. So you just got to do your best to try to, like, work around them.
That's why I want to talk a little bit more about this breakfast beer thing. I think you just alluded to what makes a great breakfast beer. The banana, the cloves, the smells, the flavors, the ingredients sometimes. Talk to us. Is it a movement?
So breakfast beers are either for the college student that wants to drink Miller Lite because they need a little hair of the dog next day, or they're for the beer geek who sees there's actually some beers out there called Beer Geek Breakfast.
Right.
And so they've got normally there's an oat base to the grain profile, and there's, well, maybe not a base, but there's a oat component to it.
Yeah.
And then coffee is added a lot, and chocolate. In a Hefeweizen, the banana and cloves are not added flavors. Those actually come right from the yeast.
Yeah.
So that one is just delicious. And,
right.
and it's all just from the yeast that does that. But coffee stouts are just about as delicious as no, they're better. They're better than coffee.
Yeah.
Coffee stouts are better
I
than
love coffee stouts.
Yeah.
I like milk stouts too, and that makes for a good breakfast.
Yeah, coffee
beer
milk
too.
stouts.
I know.
Yeah.
Think about if you get into the pairing component too. If you've got something salty like bacon,
Uh-huh.
and then salt and bubbles are
Yeah.
ideal for the physical,
Yeah.
the organoleptic characteristics of the beer, and then the saltiness of the bacon and the grease to cleanse the palate. So why wouldn't you have like a breakfast stout?
Right.
You
yeah.
know, and some of these stouts actually have pork products in them. There's one that I think Dogfish Head did. Didn't it have some scrapple in it or something? Or
Oh, probably. Dogfish Head, they are some crazy, crazy fools, and I love them for it.
I know, right?
Have you ever had the beers? There's a Black Bottle Brewery that's in Fort Collins that has a cerealless. It's called like Cerealicious beer, and they make it out of like Count Chocula or whatever cereal that they are inspired to make a beer out of.
I have definitely heard of them.
Yeah.
But I have not actually had a breakfast cereal beer. That is.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, that does sound interesting. I can't put a label saying I think that's going to be delicious, but I would try it.
Yeah.
There are some beers out there that are smoked as well, and those have a bacony flavor in and of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, for my husband, we went camping for one of his birthdays. It must have been his 30th birthday. Wow, I am getting old. And so what we did was we actually we label our summers, and so we were having the summer of burgers.
Yeah.
Because we got this meat grinder. So I actually made some sausage using the meat grinder, and I added in some beer, and adding a smoky beer into something like a sausage is delicious. But I actually also used a blueberry beer to make one. So I made a couple different kinds of sausage, and we cooked those over a fire camping. But yeah. And
I just had a friend who said, add a little bit of beer to your not the salsa, the what's it called when you make the little tomato onion? Yeah.
Picadillo?
Yeah, that's what it is. The and it was great because it adds that fresh, like that acidity and a little bit of that freshness to it, and it kind of like makes it like not turn as fast, so it keeps a little bit better.
Nice. Yeah,
it was really good.
I have a really complex set of feelings around cooking with beer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes it comes out really good.
Okay.
And other times I totally mess up. I'm not really good at following directions.
Right.
Like I'm in general. Like it's not just recipes I'm not good at. It's like, hey, this is what we should really do. And I'm like, let's see if there's a different way to do this. So I take all kinds of recipes and I use them as a starting point. And then I just kind of do whatever I want after that. And that works out really well sometimes, and it works out really poorly a lot of times. And I can tell you that one thing that I've done before that did not turn out well is we have these boiled dinners You take corned beef and you put cabbage and carrots and potatoes and you cook them all day. And, often around St. Patty's Day, we'll have the corned beef and the boiled dinner. And I was like, oh, St. Patty's Day, corned beef. You want to have that with a stout? Let's just try putting a stout in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no.
No?
The cooking in it all day just added this horrible, first off, the house was just smelly all day long.
Oh, wow.
Like you had cabbage and beer boiling away in your house. And then it just, the flavors change when you cook those sugars up. It changes the
It's pretty much the chemical makeup.
That
You've
was
got
what
chemical reactions going on. Where if you look at traditionally, what we used to do is put hot dogs, bratwurst, whatever, in a crock pot with some sauerkraut and throw a can of beer in there. But we're drinking lager, cheap lager,
Yeah, light
and it
beer.
made it amazing.
Yeah. So lagers, I have had a lot better success with.
Right.
Also, there's this great, a great chef. His name is Sean Paxton. He's the homebrew chef.
Okay.
And he makes these amazing IPA mashed potatoes. And those are freaking delicious.
I'll bet.
They are so good. But again, first time I tried it, they were perfect because I followed the directions. The second time, I was like, I know better than Sean. I don't. Sean, if somehow you ever listen to this, you are amazing, and I don't know better than you.
We will tag Sean Paxton in this podcast and make sure he does get to hear it and give him a shout out. I mean, that's what we're going to do. But you know what? I think we maybe we're a little remiss, even though we kind of wrote it this way. We want our listeners to hear a little bit more about the way you create your show on the go. As you guys can hear, I was just jamming to Michael Jackson from the 70s a minute ago, by the way. We're still at the bar, and basically Amanda has set up her whole thing right here at the poolside bar. And this is pretty much what you do. You go to breweries and you get the story. But I think maybe our listeners want to hear a little bit more about what you got coming up, where you're going.
Yeah.
What you got going on.
So I've got 7 thoughts in my head all at the same time trying to escape my mouth.
Right.
So first, yes, what I do is I call it podcasting in the wild. I'm out where my people are. I am at the breweries. I'm at the bars. Everybody's like, oh, do I need it? If I reach out to somebody, oh, are we going to do this on Skype? No, we got to do it in person.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, do you have a studio? Well, I have my basement, but I really don't want you to come over to my basement.
Right.
And I want to be where they feel most comfortable. So that's what I do. I go to where my people are. I have been in the middle of a hop field. I have been in a big empty warehouse that has since been turned into an amazing facility that is used for malting beer. But before malting barley, sorry. But before they actually got to that point, they were just a big empty warehouse. And so we sat in the middle of that. And yeah, podcasting in the wild is what I like to do. And then I also, so this is my kind of mobile setup.
Okay.
So this one,
it's impressive. I mean, we usually just talk into our iPhones like a couple of dorks. So this is very impressive.
Well, what I like about this is it can set up on top of one of those tall standing tables.
Right.
Wherever it is. When I first bought my equipment, I was like, people were like, oh, you should totally get this giant mixer. And I was like, well, no, sometimes I have to put it on top of a barrel because, so many breweries now use barrels as tables, which is really cute, but not awesome for podcasting purposes.
Right.
So let's work on that, folks. Have a dedicated place for when I come and visit you.
Right.
I'm just kidding.
Well, I think a lot of people don't get what happened. We're going to have a lot of ambient noise. We've got people over here. We got kids in the pool.
Yeah.
People don't have the respect that, if you want really good sound, you've got to have a good place to record.
Right, but I also think that for me, having my people are beer geeks.
Yeah.
I love them. I'm a beer geek.
Yeah.
We are beer geeks. We are out. That's where we are.
Yeah.
So I think that having the noises in the background, when you go and you listen to this, you'll actually see you hear it, but it's not distractingly so. The way that I've got it set up. What it allows to happen is you have a sense of place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have that feeling like maybe you are there with them. There's another amazing podcast out there called Sheep podcast.
Yeah, we know them.
Yeah, Jessica Kupferman and Elsie Escobar, they were having a conversation on one of the shows about down in Australia, there's a podcasting commercial or something that like they're trying to get more people to listen to podcasts.
Right.
And so the commercial is like people putting in their earbuds and just going, and having like they're there in their spot. For me, I picture my people like being stuck in traffic on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
Right? Just trying to get home. They just want to get home to have that beer. It's been a long week. And they turn on my show. And then the road and the traffic just kind of disappear. And it's like we're all sitting together just having a conversation. And you feel that way.
Yeah.
We try to do the same thing. And we don't podcast from a lot of wineries because, again, we're still not having the mobile setup. But we did recently post a winery visit with Steph through a winery in Italy, and she's going through the tank rooms. And that kind of noise, it does add.
It does.
To the experience.
Yeah. You got to make sure that you have your equipment set up correctly because if you don't, it can really be bothersome.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, just think about it. If you go to like a really loud place, not microphones in hand, but just in general, and you're trying to talk to the person next to you.
And then the lawnmower comes by.
Well, I just mean like if we're going to a venue and we're going to go listen to a band.
Okay.
We can't hear each other.
Right.
And therefore, no conversation will happen. You take dates to those ones that you either don't have anything to talk to and you're just like, I want somebody to go to the show with me, right?
Yeah.
Or you're like, I don't really know if I'm going to like this guy, so let's just try to keep, but he's really pretty. Yeah. Let's just go and we can look at him and be like, oh, you're pretty, but this band is really good. But if you want to actually get to know somebody and talk to them, you don't take them to a loud band. You also don't take them to a movie theater, right?
You can't talk.
Right.
Yeah.
So you want to go to a place where you can talk, and what happens with the right setup is that's what it seems like no matter where you are.
Yeah.
I have had some really, really loud surroundings, but you couldn't tell from listening.
That's
because
great.
The way it was all set up. I also have my extraordinarily mobile getup, which is a harness. I have a harness with all kinds of my equipment stuck right to me, and I do that so I can do some of the little on-the-go shows. Yeah. And you asked me where I was headed with the show, and actually we're coming up on episode 100. And on 100, we're going to be, somebody's going to be interviewing me that's been on my show a couple times. He is amazing. And I'm going to let him just completely take over. And then we're changing things up completely. Right now, we sit down, we have interviews with people, and it's one person or one group of people and their story. And I always go into something wanting to know a specific question. So my episode 87 is about going to a distillery and the Wiggly Bridge.
Wiggly Bridge. I don't know where. I'm thinking of Whistle Pig Rye.
There you go.
Bridge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wiggly Bridge. Yeah. And they're fabulous. They actually drove to my house and gave me a bottle of rum to bring down and share with everybody here at Podfest.
Nice.
That's fabulous.
Yeah. An hour drive. You know, he was going by to go to another event, but he pulled out like off of the highway, stopped by my house, dropped off the stuff, and was like, take this down and share it with people.
Right.
And I did. But like for them, it was how does beer, the process of brewing and the process of distilling, how is it the same and how is it different? Which is great. And I love doing that kind of thing because for me, it's all about stories. But what we're going to do with at least through the summer, we'll see how everybody goes with it. We're going to actually go down to bi-weekly because we're going to do something that's a lot more edited, and we're going to actually take a single question and ask it to multiple people.
Right.
So the episode 101 is going to be, what is your craft beer aha moment?
So it's going to be like, was it Vox Popping? Like we talked about with the She Podcast ladies? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And so that's kind of how I roll anyways. Now I'm just going to completely and totally embrace it and make it into an audio collage.
That's great. Now, you did tell us you were working on your Cicerone certification. So getting back to you, our listeners may remember that a Cicerone it's like a beer sommelier, but so you're somebody that actually knows beer. And I think there was a lot of misconception. I think with Steph and I, they're like, oh, wait, you actually know something about wine. You don't just podcast and drink.
Yeah.
You know a little something about beer. And I can imagine that people often ask you questions about beer once they find that out. So what kind of questions do you normally get that either drive you nuts or that you get really excited to answer?
Well, I think actually I get a statement more than a question.
Oh.
A statement.
A statement. First off, you're right. I am starting to work towards it. I have gone as far. There's 3 different levels, I think, at this point of Cicerone. The problem is that I have a really hard time holding anything into my memory. Not quite Dory style, but sometimes I wonder. Yeah. And it's gonna be a long road for me to actually get very far in the Cicerone. But I've started. I actually did an episode with Sam Brown, who was a Cicerone, and he just put the next adventure on my list was get your Cicerone. Right. So I'm going to be working on that. There are certainly, definitely, as you said, there are shows out there that people just drink, right? And they rate and review beers, which means I'm drinking with my buddies, and we're going to just drink this beer and talk about it a little bit, and we're going to drink a lot of them, and then by the end of the show, nobody's coherent, and I don't know who wants to listen to that at all. Yeah. And then the other type of show that's out there is the highly technical brewers and their side of things, and they're just, talking about IBUs and
kind of hops
initial
and dry hopping,
initial gravity, and they're just like, look at how big my fermentation system is. Well, my fermentation system's bigger, and
I have 10 Kenby.
That's not a ladies' show, I don't think either.
No,
it's not lady host saying that your mind is bigger.
Yeah, no. So my show is definitely about storytelling, and so what people often say to me is they think that my show is just me getting drunk.
Right.
And once I've explained that to them, well, that their next one, and this is the one that really I find is a fun challenge and also super annoying, is, I don't drink beer.
Yep.
I don't drink beer.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you drink? If you don't drink, that's a different story.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Okay, that's completely fine, and I can respect that. If you don't drink beer because of a gluten allergy or something, there are so many things that you could be allergic to in beer.
Right.
If there is something going on like that, okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
But if you don't drink beer because I didn't like it this one time I tried it, okay, all right. Well, first, let's open our minds a little bit, because just like people, not every beer is the same.
Right.
And I think that I think there's less women in beer. It's changing. It's certainly changing.
Yes.
But at least the perception still is that there are less women in beer. It's probably because we don't go around talking about whose tank is bigger.
I think so.
So, that might be part of the reason why people don't know that we're out there. But in terms of why I think it's harder for women to get into beer is because when you're in college, you have crappy beer. That's what's around.
Exactly.
Right? And most women I have met are not stupid enough to do something that really sucked more than once or twice.
Right.
Right?
Right. Most of us.
Most of us.
I like this.
Not
I like
everybody.
where this is going.
We all have those friends, though.
Right? Yeah, we do. And they're the ones that are still drinking really crappy beer because they're like, this is good. It's an acquired taste.
Right.
Beer is not an acquired taste to me. I always just take a deep breath and I'm like, okay, well, you just haven't met your beer yet. And so I end up actually being like a beer matchmaker. So I say to people, what are the flavors that your mouth enjoys currently? If you like a white wine, there's a beer for that.
Right.
If you like something really sweet, there's a beer for that. If you love coffee, there is most certainly a beer for that. If you, you just really got to find it. My mom, she didn't drink beer, but she is very, very supportive of everything that I do. And therefore, she started trying some beers. And, there's a lot, where I grew up, we had a lot of mashed potatoes and hot dogs and beans and hot dogs and, croquettes and all these things. So she doesn't necessarily have an adventurous palate. And so I could be like, oh, Mom, try this sushi. And she's like, Amanda, that is raw fish. I am not eating that.
Right.
But for beer, because she knows it's such a part of my life at this point, she keeps trying the different ones. And so it's really funny. We actually tried one by Sam Adams. It was their Rebel Raw, which is a double IPA. And she tried it. She smelled it. And she's like, oh, it kind of has a floral smell to it. She's getting really good.
Right.
And then she drinks it and she takes a sip and she's like, this tastes like, dish soap. And I was like, okay, well, maybe it was just the first sip and it'll change as it warms up. And she's like, you know how when you are eating salt and vinegar chips, your mouth kind of like waters up and, you don't really want the next one, but then you try it, a little bit of it and your mouth is still like, no, this is still really, and it's just like, she goes, yeah, that's how I feel about this dish soap beer. And she's just so funny the way she's changed.
Oh my God, we should give a cheers to Amanda's mom.
Cheers to my mom.
Seriously.
Right?
She's an adventurer.
She is. And
See?
hence, yes.
The name of your show.
Right.
Great Beer Adventure.
Yes.
So because we have to, I think we have to we haven't checked out yet.
Yeah.
So I would love to talk with you all day, but what we want to
Yes.
at least get out to our listeners is to talk about Great Beer Adventure, where we can find you, where you are on the social spaces, and anything else you want to add to just kind of, I hated to kind of cut you off, but
It's all right. It's all right. I could talk beer all day. I just want to say that there is a misconception that I drink beer nonstop.
right?
I appear to drink beer nonstop. That is what is actually happening. I do not do that. It's just when you are a beer podcaster, people see you with beer.
Yeah.
It's part of your identity now, and so that makes
Exactly.
sense.
Right.
We get that. People think we're drinking wine all
We're
day.
day drunk.
Yeah. All the time.
Yeah.
And if I'm stumbling over my words at 11 o'clock in the morning, it's because I haven't had enough coffee yet.
Right.
It is not because I have had way too many beers already. So Great Beer Adventure, we look at the stories and we want to know about more. And it's not just about getting drunk, even though, breakfast beers are delicious. And thank you so much for having these breakfast beers with me.
Yeah.
How do we connect with you on Instagram?
Instagram is where I was going to send everybody. You want to go to Great Beer Adventure. It's just at Great Beer Adventure. That's where I am. People hang out in the beer space on Instagram, so that's where I hang out as well. I go where my people are. Also, you can go to greatbeeradventure.com and find us all over the place there.
All over the place.
All over the place.
All kinds of beers and all kinds of goodness.
And
Beers
lately,
and stories.
whiskey and
And distilled items, and I've got to get some cider on there, and how are we
yeah,
going to get
love the
wine
cider.
on there? We got to figure out some connection, right?
We will figure it out.
We will
sister.
figure it out.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here today and letting us. I mean, this equipment setup is badassery right here.
total badassery.
Yeah, I got a pink microphone ball over here, and
And that's
Yeah.
pink is my thing.
And
yeah,
the song playing is taking care of
Taking care of
business.
business.
absolutely.
So that's good too.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what we're doing, ladies. But this was, I don't want to even say amazing because it was more than that. It was definitely an adventure. So
Yeah.
cheers.
Thank
fan
you.
freaking tastic.
Fan-freaking-tastic.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I don't think it really gets better than that. I mean, poolside, breakfast beer, 3 ladies hanging out, sunglasses, the whole thing, right?
Right?
Mics. You got beers, you got sunglasses. It's pretty good. Life is good, and Amanda was a champ. And it was great that right before we had to leave Orlando, we were able to get her time and have her share some stories with us. So that was cool.
The only glitch we had was we wanted to meet at 10:30 because we all had to check out of our hotels, and they wouldn't sell us any beer till 11. I'm like,
I know.
What's that?
What is that?
Yeah.
There's a lot wrong with that. That's what it is. But you know what? That's okay because we made it happen and we were patient and we waited. And you know who else makes it happen are our Patreons. They make it happen for us. They make this show possible. Thank you guys for crowd funding for us. That's what it's about. And so our tenacious tasters, they get a shout out. Jeff E. from We Like Drinking Podcast, our podcasting brother. Lynn from the wine blog Savor the Harvest. Sebastian from Sassy Italy Tours. Thank you, you tenacious tasters. And thank you, it's not 5 o'clock and we don't care, listeners. We've got Meg from South Dakota, Clay from Arizona, John in California, Andrew in Illinois, and Aswani also in California. Thanks so much, you guys. And don't forget, each month we do draw a winner for a bottle of Albarello Luxury Hand Soap for any Patreon supporter at the $2 a month taste maker listener level and higher. So you can find out more about that on our Patreon page, patreon.com/wine25podcast. So go there, be a part of this, get some t-shirts, get some swag. What else, Val?
Well, I guess we want to share the love, you know? I mean, and I'm looking at all our supporters, and all these supporters create their own content, having their own thing going on in the wine, beer, spirits, travel world, and we all have this common thing that brings us together, so why not share it? So if you want to get more involved with the Wine to Five community, well, you can. You can share our show. You can link it, tweet it, Facebook it, grab someone's phone, and help them subscribe and push play. In fact, March is hashtag Tripod Month, TRYPOD. Help your friends discover podcasts, even if it's not our show. Because, sadly, 1 out of 4 Americans listen to podcasts. The rest have no idea what a podcast is. Help them. Help them with that.
Yeah, I think that's a nice thing to do. It's a way to be a go-giver, is to help these people. What if they're into knitting or like gardening or something? Maybe they should listen to a podcast about that.
I mean, there is a podcast out there for everything. If you're trying to survive anything from, you never know, colon cancer or, you know, horses. Remember Horse Radio Network? That was cool.
That is cool. There's stuff about Star Wars or, you know, whatever you're into.
Yeah. So if you like it, there's probably a podcast for it. If there isn't, maybe start one. So go out and try the tripod, tripod, look for that hashtag and try a new podcast. You know what I'm trying to say. And if you like wine, well, by all means, click the Wine to Five icon, because we're here for you. So we also have the private Facebook group. We also have a way for you to talk to us and leave us a voicemail. So we have something called SpeakPipe. You can leave a burning wine question. You can leave us a comment, hear your voice on the show. You can leave us a glowing wine tunes. You can leave us a wine tunes. You can leave us a glowing review on iTunes or iHeartRadio. That would be really nice, and that would also help other wine lovers discover our podcast. Finally, check out our store. You can score wine books, accessories. It's all on our website, along with our Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, Google Plus pages. And you can connect with me, Val. I'm on Twitter at WineGalaUnboxed, and on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest as Vino with Val. Steph is on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube as Albarello Soap, at Albarello Soap. She is also on Instagram and Pinterest as The Wine Heroine. So while Steph gets back to conference and I get back to things here in Colorado, guys, have a great week, and until next week, cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Wine to Five podcast. Be sure to check us out at Facebook/WineTWO5 and tune in next week for more fun and useful sip tips.